All right, Jeff. So we talked briefly in part one. We talked at length in part one about how you do it and what you do. But you've also done very well as an owner.
Yeah.
Bought your first horse in 1995. Now, was that funded by the nightclubs and stuff, or was it your punting?
No, definitely not. That was in the days where the entertainment agency I was running, we were doing about 450 to 500 gigs a month. So it was quite a busy agency. So definitely not the punting.
So you were successful in business already.
Oh yeah.
So you landed running as an owner. You've mentioned that your club was called Bigwigs. And so how did the purchase of your first, of Miss Bigwig happen? And who picked her?
I wouldn't say I picked her. I mean, in those days, Jack Berry was the person to have a 2-year-old with. And I called him up and I said, I'm interested in buying a horse. And I got the famous trainer line, oh, I've got one just that'll suit you, which I think's been used a lot by many trainers. So I went up to see the filly and we did the deal. I think I paid 10 grand for her, I think, is what I paid. She went and won on a debut, which was but it was a bit of a stroke of luck. It was the last race on the card. Who runs a 2-year-old? Last race on the card in 1st of April, I think it was. And I think she was second favourite. And she came into the straight looking like she was going to run well. And then a Peter Chapel-Iron horse that Robert Sangster called Solo Symphony came by her, went about 2 lengths up, collided with the rails, threw John Reed up its neck, and my filly got back up and won on the line. So it was like, I thought this is easy. And on the way out, I remember telling Peter Chapel-Iron, I was quite pleased to tell him that my filly had beat his, and it was the first time I'd had a runner. And he was like, enjoy it because it's all downhill from here. And he was right. But as somebody who grew up in a council house in Barnsley, the last thing I expected was ever to own a horse, let alone have a winner. So to then go and win with the first run, it was like, you can't get any better than this.
And were you serious punting at this point?
And I was punting, but I was probably still not winning. I mean, this is what, 95, I think it was. So no, I was still very busy in the entertainment agency. And so I was punting, but not winning. I mean, she went on to win 3 races as a 2-year-old and didn't even cover training fees, which just shows how bad the finances are in British racing. But hey-ho. I went on to have another 72 winners, so I've had 73 so far, so I've done okay.
Yeah, and counting.
We'll see.
So did you back her that day when she won on the debut?
Yes, of course, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about Jack Berry.
Jack Berry is just a character, just a really, really nice guy. A true story about Jack. So back in my entertainment agency capacity, I'd been asked to go to do a nightclub visit in Blackpool, and they had a big promotion night, and I'd been asked to judge something or other. I can't remember what it was. So on the way there, I rang Jack and I said, Jack, can I come and see my horses? And he said to me, you bloody well can't at this time of night. He said, but where are you going? I said, I'm going to Blackpool. He said, come and pick me up, I'll go with you. I thought, well, this is not going to be for Jack. But we went along to this nightclub, and it was quite an impressive night. They got things like a week abroad as a prize, a weekend away as a prize, and then they got this top of the range of its day sound system with all the bells and whistles. And the woman who owned it she'd be as sharp as a cheese grater. She came up to me and said, listen, she said, I'm not giving this prize away to anybody. Do you think if I rig the prize, that old fella that stood next to you, do you think he'll come up and collect the prize? She said, I'll give him 20 quid for his troubles. Well, of course, that was declined, and Jack still goes on about it every time I've spoken to him since he's mentioned it.
Now you moved on to several other trainers after Jack, and then you hit on Karl Burke.
Yes.
So what other trainers did you use?
Oh, many. Paul Cole, Paul Darcy, Gerard Butler, Paul Blockley, Rod Millman, Stan Moore, many more. But it was obviously finding Karl that turned the owning side around for me, for sure.
You spread your wings a bit going down to Rod Millman. He's not far from me.
Yeah, and it was and funny enough, that was it was a horse. Well, my favourite place to visit is an island in the British Virgin Islands called Jos van Dijk, and I called that horse Jos van Dijk, and it won at Yarmouth. Only a seller, but it won when it was supposed to.
Okay, now as well as owning racehorses, you've also got a breeding operation.
Yep.
You caught a bit of a cold with that initially.
Caught a big cold. Yeah. It was in 2008 when the huge recession took place. I just retired Imperialistic and put it in fall to Haft that won the 2,000 guineas. But I just thought, if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it right. So I either retired or bought 5 more mares. And what I didn't realise was that 6 mares in 2 or 3 years became 18 with foals and yearlings. So I'm now feeding 18 horses, and then nobody wanted to buy them. We had this huge recession, and I even bred the 2012 German 1,000 guineas winner Electrolane that Rafe Beckett trained, and also a 99 rated filly called Imperialistic Diva, which I ended up selling half of her to Tim Easterby for $5,000 for. But it was bad days. I mean, I probably lost between 350 and 450,000 breeding. So it was something that I won't be repeating.
So you still doing the music at this point, or have you sold up and got a few extra?
Sold, yeah. This was 2008. I would have got out of the entertainment business 2006-ish, I guess.
Okay, so I mean, people when they get a few quid go into horse race ownership without too much research.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got into breeding, where did you take sort of advice from anybody about that, or did you just go into
probably not. Probably gung ho and live to regret.
So is that finished now? You don't breed at all?
No, definitely not.
Okay, and also plenty of feathers to your bow. You're a jockey's agent.
Oh God, yeah. That was fleeting. I got the chance, or I got asked to do Ian Mongan when he relinquished his amateur status, and I just found that very, very tough. And I gave that up. But in 2014, after Kieran Fallon had he'd won the 2,000 guineas on Night of Thunder, he asked me if I would do him. Now, I've known Kieran a good 15 years by then, and had it been anybody else, I would have said no, but I said I would do Kieran. But it was only about 2 years before he retired, and he wasn't as popular as he was, and I didn't do it a long time. But I also did Seb Sanders at the same time, so at least I can say I did 2 ex-champion jockeys.
So was it a bit like ringing around trying to get a band gigs, or was it, did you picking the rides for these jockeys, or did you have to ring up and beg for the rides?
Both. I used my figures a lot of the time to ask for rides, and I thought I did quite well for Kieran. I did quite well, but I do remember telling Graham Green from the Racing Post that I felt it was a bit like being a double glazing salesman.
And I suppose what happens? You get a percentage of the jockey's earnings.
Yeah, 10% of but it never amounted to that much.
No, so I mean, it was for a person in your position at that point. It was a lot of work for not a lot.
Yeah, I did it out of friendship more than from a business point of view.
Okay, so right, your CV. It's an unusual one for a professional punter, so we've got to talk about it a bit. You were on the Yorkshire Ripper case. So we've all seen the latest TV programme.
Well, that's probably the best one, The Long Shadow, actually. So I joined the police in 1978. It was the only job I'd ever really wanted to do from being a kid, and I was stationed in Sheffield. after I'd been in a couple of years, I worked on a support group for the Yorkshire Ripper case. It wasn't anything flash. We actually sat in an unmarked police car in a red light area in Sheffield called Havelock Square, reading car number plates into what was an old dictaphone. These were then typed up the next day by typists, and they would all be filed. Now, if you saw the room in the police station, files were literally floor to ceiling. There was no computers, so there's no wonder it took so long to actually catch him. He was eventually caught by, you'd like to say good police work, but it was a fluke, a total fluke. 2nd of January 1981, I believe. He was caught by 2 colleagues of mine, Sergeant Bob Ring and a new PC called Bob Hyde, and they just happened to drop on this car. And but if you've seen The Long Shadow, you get the story there. The only thing they didn't put in the Long Shadow was that when he was taken to the police station, which in those days it wasn't even an offence to be with a prostitute. They took him to make a statement. You made a statement. The prostitute was a girl called Olivia Reevers, and he had to make a statement about her. So they gave him free run of the police station. What they found out later was they put a knife and a screwdriver in one of the cisterns of the toilet, and that was the Yorkshire Ripper.
And the people at the top of that case didn't come out very well at all in the documentary. Was that sort of out of your vision in those that would have...
Well, it was being run from Chapeltown in Leeds. It just happened to be that he was caught at our police station, but they were running it. A guy called George Oldfield, if I remember rightly, was the guy who was running it. No, I don't think they did come out very well, to be honest. And for what it's worth, same police station was where the Hillsborough disaster was a few years later. So it was a busy little place.
Okay, we like these interviews to be positive. So a much nicer chap than the Yorkshire Ripper, I think, is certain to say, was young Gary Barlow.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Are you still in touch with Gary?
No, not at all. I knew Gary when he was about 17. It was when I got the Cabaret Club. He used to come and play every other Tuesday, I think it was, and I used to pay him 60 quid. And he had bright blonde dyed hair, and he used to come in sort of 3/4 length shorts. But he was very, very good even then. And true story this, he actually played me on an old cassette tape, a song that he'd written asking me what I thought of it. A Million Love Songs. Who knew?